His podcast?
Yeah, podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is. Podcast. We don't even know what a podcast is.
I'll tell you what a podcast is. I'll tell you exactly what a podcast is. Podcast. It's when the nation gets together every 4 years, once every 4 years. Just like the Olympics, just like the World Cup. I guess the Olympics are 2-2 now, but just like the World Cup, our electoral system of justice and a federal democracy gets together once every 4 years and elects a president of the United States. And just like that, we also select via casting of our votes what pie will run the what's the dumb pun for federal branch of government? Fucking I can't think of anything. Edible branch. The edible reserve. Which pies will we keep in the edible reserve? Will it be pumpkin? Will it be apple? Well, I'm here to tell you something today, my fellow Americans. I like peach. Michelle, Sasha, and Malia, they prefer cherry pie. I say the only cherry pie I like is that old Warrant song with that blonde chick in the video. Am I right? Let me look. I can't believe Barack Obama's gonna be gone, man. If you haven't seen it, there's been a couple great Barack Obama things happen recently. He did a podcast with Mark Maron, the WTF podcast I listened to. But even more importantly, Jerry Seinfeld has an internet show called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And he had Barack Obama as a guest. Jerry Seinfeld went to the White House, and of course they didn't go out and get coffee. They just have like some little bullshit coffee room at the White House. They just have like a little coffee room, it looks like a break room. Honestly, I've seen that show a couple times, and it's ironic. I don't know if it's ironic, but it's funny that the shittiest place where they got coffee was at the President of the United States' house. That was actually the worst place I saw. Everybody else got to go to some nice little gentrified neighborhood-ass coffee shop, whereas Barack was just chilling down there. And I gotta say, I don't trust politicians in general, but I mean, he seems like a cool dude. And now we got all these fucking jokers trying to take his place. And I'm sure there's people out there listening that think that I'm wrong, because a lot of people here think that Barack Obama ruined the country. That's when I watched. Let me preface this by saying I've been watching a lot of political stuff. I've been getting into it mostly because my roommate Davey is a big fan of presidential politics. Might have said it on the podcast before, but he's I don't know if it has to do with this, but he's originally from Israel, and he says he's always been intrigued by United States presidential races and the way it works and the way the battles and debates about it. And I get it. It is kind of interesting. And man, if you watch some of the Republicans talk about Barack Obama and some of his supporters talk about him, you would really think he was like Osama bin Laden. Man, I think that people are just easily swayed, because usually when they are asked to give more detail, at least for the people that they just see on the streets, most people, they call him the devil and shit. They can't give any more detail as to why that's the case. I mean, I thought what he did with Article 27, particularly D of the healthcare crisis abortion economics, was pretty flawless as far as legislation is concerned. I have no fucking idea. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I really don't have any guideline this week on the podcast. I just rolled out of bed, got myself a coffee, and this is like the third take of the podcast, the first two, since I had a couple drinks last night, just pacing around the studio. I started stuttering. When I first started doing this podcast, I'd always at least know a little bit of shit that I might talk about. I at least had like a little idea, a quasi outline, if you may, about what subjects and topics I would go into on the podcast. But this time, it's not like that. Just out here ranting. Ranton, Pennsylvania. Scranton, Pennsylvania is where I was referencing right there. You take off the SC. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what I did do this week? 2 or 3 days ago, I recorded an epic rap song. Anybody listening to this that likes my rap songs is going to be happy to know that I got a fucking banger that I'm going to put out on real soon. I got a problem, though. I don't want to put it out just audio. I want it to come with a video so I can just be like, bam, here it is. But I just can't think of a dope video for it. I want it to be simple, but I like the way it's recorded. I don't want to do like just play the beat and actually rap it like I've done in the past, because I like the way it sounds as it is, and I want to make it more like a song than a freestyle, even though it kind of is essentially a freestyle, but in the new definition of the word freestyle. I didn't make it up as I went along, but there's only a chorus at the very end of the song. So yeah, I had a couple ideas floating around in this old barrel of a fucking head of mine. Might as well be a barrel with the whiskey I've been putting in it. But hey, you know, your go-getter attitude of January can only last so long. What month is it now? That's right, February. And what do we have in February? We have multiple things. First of all, it's Black History Month. Second of all, I think the President Day or whatever. They had to do that, huh? They had to put, or I could be fucking wrong. I feel like today I'm sounding like a moron on my podcast, but President's Day was in January, wasn't it? Fuck. Am I going to fucking Google when is President's Day right now? Yeah, I am. I'm stepping a little bit back from the mic, so I apologize. But you know what? I might be losing some podcast fans this week, but I'm going to find out when President's Day is. Just as I suspected. They have to put President's Day, where we celebrate the old presidents of the United States, many of which were slave owners themselves. They have to put that smack dab in the middle, February 15th this year, smack dab in the middle of Black History Month. That's exactly how shit happens in America. We've heard it all before, but just to reiterate, especially for those international listeners that may not be familiar with our situation, February is Black History Month. It's very widely celebrated. If you went to public schools like I did, it's a big thing, and I thought it was cool to learn about. But, of course, it's the shortest month of the year. Of course. Of course, it's fucking wintry, fucking cold month. And, of course, they have to put President's Day right in the middle of it. So that while you're celebrating Black history, they got to remind you right in the middle of your celebration. Whoa. But the presidents, though. But the presidents, the ones that owned you guys. That's what we're talking about now. Right in the middle. They always got to do some shit like that. And it's unfortunate, man. It is unfortunate. What am I doing to celebrate Black History Month, you ask? I am... shit, man. I can't say that I've done anything. I mean, I'm not doing anything to celebrate. What holidays do I celebrate? I celebrate Christmas, celebrate Easter a little bit. I can't say that I'm celebrating Black History Month very well, so I apologize to all my listeners that are. Sorry. Another thing that happens this month is Valentine's Day. Are you guys excited for that? I know that most of you guys that listen to this are men and are probably not that excited for it because it's just pressure. It's just yet another way that females pressure men into being good enough for them, right? Did he get me good enough shit? Did he take me to a good enough restaurant? What kind of man? Like, a lot of women equate you with where you take them. If you take them to McDonald's, you're a fucking McDonald's kind of dude. If you take them to Outback Steakhouse, you're an Outback Steakhouse kind of dude. Like if you're the upper echelon dude, you got to rest. You go to restaurants I've never even heard of. You go to a restaurant, you made a reservation at fucking a steakhouse on the space station. That's like the upperest of it. Lowerest is just like, don't take them anywhere, I guess. But the median is maybe like Cheesecake Factory. Benihana. Benihana is a pretty good place. I mean, Benihana, in my opinion, is a really good place. But as far as taking your girl out on Valentine's Day, I think that that'd be God damn. I need to fucking clean my act up. What else is going on with me or with the world? What's going on? What are y'all doing? I wish that you could talk back to me. Maybe I need to get this this phone line built so you can call back in time. Call back in time to when I was recording this. So recording me can talk to listening you about your week. Fuck my week. I did buy some pork tenderloin. 2 days ago, I made a big-ass pork tenderloin, overcooked it on the grill, dry as shit, fucking dry, but I still ate it, and I grilled up a bunch of vegetables, onions, peppers, still got some mushrooms to cook. Need to fucking, I don't know what the fuck I need to do, man. I need to do a lot of things. I don't know where this podcast is going this week, y'all. It's boldly going where no man has ever wanted to go before. It's boldly going into the corridor of eternal boredom. Can you see that? We're walking through a hallway, and then it just opens up into this wide, vast, Sistine Chapel-sized room. But instead of having all the beautiful paintings of the Sistine Chapel all over the ceilings and walls, it's just gray. And it's boring as fuck, and you just are there forever, for eternity. And you're not allowed to have any thoughts that are interesting. There's no books, there's no TV, there's no podcasts, except this one. And you just have to sit there for eternity. And this podcast plays over and over and over and over again. And by the time you're about to die, the only thoughts you have are thoughts that you receive from this podcast. Over and over again in your head, all you hear is, Wax isn't celebrating Black History Month. How come they put President's Day in the middle of Black History Month? Wax doesn't remember doesn't know what kind of video he's going to make for his rap song. Over and over and over again. And you don't die, actually. It's more like a heaven and hell situation where it's just your soul. It's purgatory. It's the ultimate definition of purgatory. There's no happiness and no pain. Well, it's kind of pain. If you consider boredom pain. And I've heard it said that excitement is happiness and boredom is depression. So you could say it's the ultimate in depression. Except you can't kill yourself because you're already dead. You're just a soul. You have no body. You just exist in the eternal corridor of... what was it? The corridor of eternal boredom. As you look on the walls... You can't even put your hands on the wall because, like I said, you're just a soul. I don't know why I always clear my throat like that, but you're going to hear it in that corridor. It's the most excitement you're going to get. It's the sound of throat clearings. By the time your eternity is done, well, which will never happen because it's eternal. I can't believe people believe in heaven, man. I think it's a pleasant thought, but I understand that when you die, you want to be reunited with your loved ones. I totally get that, and I also understand that you don't want to fucking die. But what do you actually think happens up there? That's my question. I'm actually thinking about writing a song that's based on that, actually. Like, what do you do forever up there? You just fucking play harps? People in heaven are virtuosos when it comes to harp playing. Considering they've been up there for eternity, if you take our best harp player down here, that motherfucker would sound like dog shit compared to the worst harp player up there. As if you've been If you've been dead for thousands of years and you just sat on a cloud playing harp, I mean, you'd have the fastest fingers in all of heaven. Imagine the oldest people who aren't even old up there. They're just, everybody's the same age, I guess, if there's no time or whatever. I just don't understand how that's supposed to be blissful. I'm sure this has been talked about before, but like if you can't sin, what's the fun part? Or is it like, okay, now you can sin? Now pretty much is heaven like this big? Is heaven like the Playboy Mansion? Is heaven just like a constant orgy? Is heaven just, or is it more like a existential thing where your soul feels like it's orgasming all the time, but it's even better than that? It's like the feeling of all drugs and orgasms at once, and then you're feeling that with your grandfather as you both play harp. They got any other instruments up there? If you have a harp, what's the instrument that a harp does duets with? Acoustic guitar? Or a non-stringed instrument? Maybe a piano? Maybe a harpsichord? A dulcimer? Auto harp? Maybe just a choir of angels? I guess that's what it would be. I don't understand why people are excited to be an angel. I mean, I guess it's pretty dope that you have wings and can fly. But if you're just flying around and all you see is clouds and people playing harps, shit, I'd rather have wings here. Angel. I'm an angel now. Yeah, I'm just going to do shout outs and questions right now. All right. Good night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Wish I could be one of those guys that sang in the doo-wop bands with the super low voice. Boom, 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 boom. But I can't. I can't sing low enough, and I can't be the guy that sang the in the jungle, an octave above that. Can't be him either because I can't sing high enough. Not a singer, even though I somehow make a living as kind of one. I really can't do it. I'm a fraud, man. I'm a big fucking poser. Let's see here. We got some shout-outs over this way. We got Jackie Sweetleaf. We got Noah from Cali. B from L.A. That's B-E. I believe that was short for Beatrice or I can't remember. Bernice. It was short for Bernice, which both are old school names, Bernice and Beatrice. Anthony M., not to be confused with Auntie M from The Wizard of Oz. We got Chris from Chicago. We got Sophie Cormier, a.k.a. Illuminiti. That's Illuminit, K-N-I-T. From Chimogue, NB, Canada. Damn, that's that just sounds like that sounds so far away. Chimogue, NB, Canada. I don't even know what the NB stands for. I apologize. I'm really not that great with Canadian geography, but that's quite a name. Sophie Cormier, a.k.a. Illuminiti, from Chimogue, NB, Canada. You just sound like you live in a fucking distant ice fishing cabin, and you just sit there and knit sweaters all day, but with your secret society of northern sweater knitters. Sweater knitter, sweater knitter, sweater knitter, sweater knitter, sweater knitter, sweater knitter. I actually love the way that sounds. I've been writing a lot of raps recently, y'all. I just like the way that certain words sound, and you can just tell that you can use it and make it silly. Sweater knitter. Sweater knitter. The weather hitter. She needed a sweater knitter when the weather hit her. Never seen a better sitter. Forget her Twitter. Look at her Facebook. Hey, am I right? Of course, my mouse just ran out of batteries. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about my computer mouse, by the way. Not my fucking Forget anything I just said. Shout out to Devin R. Of course, we have Big D. And we got Terrell, the hockey player. And I realized something this week, Terrell and Farrell. Because Farrell M. and Terrell, the hockey player, I've mispronounced their names a few times, I think. And it's actually really obvious, but it's only because you guys have the same spelling of your name, but one's with a T at the beginning and one with an F, and they're both spelled differently that I got you guys confused. Potato, am I right? Nelly Furtado. Nelly Furtado. Carl. I love right in a row. We got Carl and Brad. Goddamn right. We got Carl and Brad. Not Carl's Jr., not Bradley. It's Carl and Brad. And, of course, we got the notorious A-Def and J-Def, San Clemente, California. We got Cordless, Kordlyss, always representing for the misspelled named posses. We got Dizzy Dizza and his brother Julius Fox. We got Mike T, the ex-security guard. Mike T, what are you doing now, man? You're an ex-security guard. What's your new gig? Speaking of Mike T, the ex-security guard, we got his boy Duffy and his friend who is a producer named Vex, Vexx. Let's get into this. All right, we got David M. Jr. says, I like eating my steak after being grilled over shit coal. Human shit coal wax. Read again on the podcast? I did. Thank you for your email. I wonder if I talked about that on the podcast. I don't remember what I talk about on here. You think I'm going to... I don't remember right now what I talked about for the last 20 minutes. But I do remember seeing the story about... I can't remember what country it is, but there's a country. It's an African country. And they're recycling human shit and creating charcoal out of it. And you'd be walking down the street, and a vendor on the side of the streets cooking beef over a flame that started with human shit charcoal. I don't know how I feel about that. I think in the future, I'm talking the distant future, 100 years, 200 years, if we're still even in existence, there's going to be so many people where we're going to have to do shit like that. I'm going to have to have urine filters, human shit charcoal. Probably when somebody dies, you just eat them. Shit like that. All right, we got TikTok from Chicago. What up, Wax? Just wanted a shout out, but was also curious to know your best and worst rappers in bands. You might have meant in and bands, rappers and bands. But I'm going to say it as maybe that's a pretty drastically different spelling though. Rappers in bands. Well, I can tell you the ones that I like and dislike. I mean, when I was younger, I loved Zach De La Rocha. I was a big fan of Public Enemy when I was a little kid. Like when I was so young, I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. I just liked the beats and I liked the way they sounded. I love Chuck D's voice and rhyme style, and I love Flavor Flav, everything about him. And if you listen to Zach De La Rocha in the height of Rage Against the Machine, he's really rapping like a high-pitched voice Chuck D. If you know the cadence of Chuck D, you would instantly recognize the influence he had on Zach De La Rocha, but it's hard to tell because their voices just sound completely different. But that said, I loved Zach De La Rocha as a rapper in band. I'll tell you who I didn't like was the dude from Linkin Park. When they came out, I hated that shit. I wasn't into Fred Durst at all either. If you listen to that song that Fred Durst did with DJ Premier and Method Man, I think it's just like it's just. I mean, that was during the height of Eminem being out, and for Fred Durst to be allowed to say those verses and be on MTV and people dressing like him and thinking he was awesome. Especially at that time in my life, I was the biggest hater then. I was super underground hip hop and like jam band shit. And I was not a fan of them, but everybody was. And I will say that while I wasn't a fan of Fred Durst as a rapper, I can't take away from the fact that they were a really good live band. I never went to one of their. I saw them in Germany a few years ago, and even then, they were just a really good live band. The first time I saw Limp Bizkit, it was on one of those. Back in the day, they used to do. MTV did these shows where during college spring break in Cancun or Daytona Beach or wherever the fuck they celebrate that shit at, MTV would show up and do concerts there. And Limp Bizkit played at one of them, and they put so much fucking energy in their performance. I can't be mad at them as a band, but if we're talking about rapping, that dude was like the worst. I didn't like the dude from Linkin Park either. The most obvious best rapper in a band is Black Thought from The Roots. I mean that's the easiest answer of all time and pretty much undebatable that he's the best rapper from a band. I used to like Anthony Kiedis from the Chili Pepper. He raps a lot. And then there was a dude that tried to sound like him in Faith No More. What other bands had rappers in them? I can't think of another rapping band. I mean, I was in one many years ago. Who's a good rapper in a band? Did Korn rap? No, they didn't really rap, did they? They sounded like that. My boy EOM was a huge fan of Korn when they were out. He has weird-ass musical taste. Surprising ones. Like, he'll hate something that's good, but then love something that sucks. Not saying that Korn was bad. I can't even judge them because I don't know them well enough. I'm also picking no modern bands. Like, what's a modern band? There's that song that's out right now, 21 Pilots. That's the whitest sounding rapper that I've heard. I can't hate on that song though because my little nephews love it. My brother's wife always plays like modern rock radio, which by the way pummels modern pop and rap radio. It's way better. But they love my 5 and 3-year-old nephews love that song, so I can't be mad at it. What other modern bands had rappers? I can't think of one. Anywho, thank you for your question, TikTok from Chicago. All right, this is what's this guy's name on here? Damn, now I'm getting a message. My keyboard batteries are low too. Wasn't bad enough that my mouse is dying. Fuck. All right, this is Bart W. from the Netherlands. Hi, Wax. First, I would like to thank you for your awesome music you make and recommend you a TV show. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Now, here's my question. I've seen that show. Now, here's my question. I've been introducing my friends to your music, and almost all my friends like it, except this one friend. He keeps saying, I don't like Wax. He whack. I like how even in the Netherlands, they say it that way. Not he is whack or he's whack. He whack. Could you maybe diss him or tell him what a diabetic cunt he is? Well, I'm not going to bring his diabetes into it if that's true that he has it. But, hey, man, fuck you, bro. I only said that for you, Bart. I only said that for you. Your friend has every right to like who he wants to like. I have a lot of people that don't like me. I have a lot of people try to give me advice, people that I don't know online. If I make a song, no matter what kind of song I make, no matter what kind of fucking post I make or tweet I make or podcast I make, somebody tries to give me advice on why I shouldn't have done that and instead I should be doing this. So, you know what, man? Your friend has every right to think what he wants to think. And he can go back to listening to his little fucking Fred Durst sounding shit that he probably likes. Okay? Over there in the Netherlands. I love the Netherlands. Rotterdam. Amsterdam. All right. Pharaoh M. Pharaoh M. Here are my questions, he says. I always hear you talking about how much you hate shopping. You also talk about how you have to wear new clothes in the videos you shoot. Why? First off, I doubt anybody would notice. Yes, they would. If you think that, you don't watch enough YouTube or read enough comments. And if they did, they'd be like, hey, he wore that shirt in bird shitting as a habit. I don't think they'd be like, what the fuck? Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like wax fans are somewhat of a different breed. A lot of us musicians, scrubs, European, or regular-ass people, we love hearing you talk conspiracy shit. I do, at least, so it definitely wouldn't bother me if you wore the same shirt in 2 videos. Especially if you hate it. Just do what you want. That's like the ethos of your artistry, it seems. That's a really interesting question, man, because you make an accurate point. You know, I'm not a fan of the whole. You know, one of my least favorite things about doing the whole musician thing is that you have to you kind of have to at least fucking put some effort into the way you look. And I think I hear what you're saying, but yeah, it's just kind of lazy, man. Like I do want to be taken seriously. I do want to not have to work at Domino's Pizza. And first, yeah, I have a fan base that's not going to care if I wear the same shirt in another video, but I kind of if I want to, you kind of, how am I fucking going to explain this? Some shit just looks lazy, man. You gotta look like you give somewhat of a fuck, or people are gonna be like, oh, this guy doesn't give a fuck. Why should I give a fuck? You know what I mean? Like, take this podcast, for example. The fact that I don't put it out every week, the fact that it seems like I don't give a fuck about it, due to the fact that I'll go a month without putting one out, that makes it so not as many. I don't gain fans. I haven't gained the amount of people that download this podcast every week hasn't ever changed. If anything, it's gone down, and that's because people think that I don't give a fuck about it. I've had people email me about it all the time, like, "Why don't you give a fuck?" And people say, if it seems like you don't give a fuck about something, why should we give a fuck? So if I just sat outside in my fucking lawn chair, which is an idea I had for my next video, but if everything's about just like doing what I want and everything being easy, why don't I just set up a tripod and let my album play and just lip sync every song? Bam, there I have a music video for every single song. The shirt that you're wearing, for example, makes it look different than the last video. Do you want every video to look the same? I mean, maybe some people do, but I don't. I wanted it to look different and creative. Like, when people are looking at you and you have the same shit you wore in the last video, they're going to be like, "Oh, this is what you didn't even change your fucking shirt? What's the point of doing all this other shit, making this fucking plot different, making the scene different, making the lighting different, but you're wearing the same fucking shirt?" It's an aesthetic thing. It's also a make it look like you give a fuck thing. You got to do certain things that you don't want to do. There's a lot of things that aren't necessarily pleasant, or like, you don't have to, my point is this, you don't have to love everything about the job that you love. For example, right now, before I did this podcast, this fucking microphone has like a 30-foot cable, and I had to try to disassemble the knots. You think I enjoyed that? It's I always say, those are my least favorite things, dealing with cables and dealing with fucking going to get a new fashion whatever. But you got to do it. You got to do it, man. If you love painting, does that mean you have to love driving to the art store in traffic? You know what I mean? You got to do certain things for your art. And one of those things is, if you're a musician and you make music videos, especially if you make a shitload of them like I did, you can't be wearing the same shirt in all of them, man. You can't do it. Number 2, did you see Dumbfounded's latest KOTD battles? What did you think of them? Every time I see King of the Dot, I always think of this idea I had for a fucking... so stupid. I wanted to make a skit for a competitive yoga league called King of the Mat. What did you think of them? I found it fascinating that he entered these battles with a fuck battling air about him. He opened and closed his disaster battles with how Diz was battling 15 years ago, and he'll be battling 15 years from now because he isn't shit. And he did it in a battle. At times it worked on DFD's... Excuse me, god damn it. At times it worked to DFD's disadvantage, but at other times it worked to his benefits. Regardless, I found it incredibly interesting. I I saw the one where he battled Conceited, and I saw some of the one where he battled Disaster, where Disaster was dressed up like a Mortal Kombat character or something. I find the racism in battling interesting and funny, especially when it comes to Asian people, because for some reason you're allowed to be completely racist to Asian people. I've always thought that was odd. I thought they were awesome. I've always liked Dumb as a rap battler. I like that he doesn't have to yell and get all crazy and angry. He has a more nonchalantness about it. And I got to be honest with you, I can't remember the lines you're talking about. I didn't watch it like that. I can't remember what the fuck they was talking about. So I did, but because of your email, I'm gonna go watch it. I'm gonna go check it out. All right. On average, how long does it take to record your vocals? One session? That varies, man. It varies, depends. You know, depends if I got the thing memorized, or if I just wrote it, or if I'm still working on it, or how intricate is the vocals. You know, there's not really any average. If that's just a reference for yourself, man, you just gotta do it till you think it's done. Sometimes you'll record it and then you'll put it in your car and listen to it and be like, damn, man, this is a little offbeat, or that's in the right energy or whatever, and you got to go redo it. And number 4, how come your store only has a few items? You always talk about how you have mad boxes of shit with your name on it. Why not just literally put it all up? Any plans for tour? First of all, just putting it all up, it's easy. It's easier to type that sentence. Put it all up. It's easier to type that sentence than to do that. I mean, I have like really random shit. Like I have like an old T-shirt that I might have 3 extra larges and a small. To just like I can't just put that up. Do I do it myself? Am I gonna do the mailing myself? Should I go through a company? If I go through the company, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck? You only have 1 small and 3 extra larges." It's just not that simple. I gotta think of how I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it soon. This online garage sale that I've been talking about. I'm glad you brought it up actually, because I am planning on doing that very, very soon. But I really wanted to get another video out. Hopefully for the song I talked about earlier in the podcast, I wanted to get a video out first, so at least my fans can think like, oh, at least this guy's not sitting on his ass expecting us to give him money for old merchandise so he can clean his garage space. I don't want to do it for that reason. I know people out there would want it. And it's a shame that it's sitting in my garage when I know there's people out there that want it. I want to sell it for cheap, just like a garage sale. And but I don't want it to seem like I'm just trying to fucking get money off people. For some reason I feel like I should put out some dope ass content first to feel like I deserve people to buy stuff from me. So long story short, I will be putting up the shit soon. And your question, it's not as easy as just put it up. You know what I mean? I got a lot of shit. Got to go through it. I'd have to figure out how I'm gonna mail it. What's the prices of everything? Do I put it in? Do I make packages? You know, it's just not as easy as you think, and it's also not as hard as I'm making it out to be too. But any plans for tour is your last question. Yeah, but first, I'm gonna do some shows here in LA. I'm gonna do a show in doing some shows in LA. But so tour is not till at least late summer, because I think I'm gonna put out another album first. All right, thanks for your question, Pharaoh M. This next question is from Gus the Bus. Gus the Bus. I don't know if this is a question. Let's just read it. Just thought I'd drop by and share a little frustration I've had in the past week. Recently, I just made a cross-country road trip from North Carolina all the way back to my home in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Anyways, on this road trip, I stopped at a gas station and bought a couple snacks. And something caught my eye while walking through the aisles. I went to get a pack of gum, and I was looking at all the different fucking brands of gum, and I saw the type of gum called Trident Layers. It's that crazy-ass gum that has the different layers of fruit flavors that was so hype when it came out a couple of years back, so I decided to buy it along with my extra-large cup of coffee and snack foods. As I began to chew it once I started driving, I couldn't help but notice how fucking tasty that gum was within the first 2 minutes of chewing the gum, but after that sweet first 2 minutes of pure fruit bliss, the gum literally lost every fucking ounce of flavor, and I realized how much of a goddamn scam Trident had me buy. I wondered why everyone used to be so down about this gum. I remember being in middle school when the stuff came out, and my friends and I would always go out and buy it in big packs to resell it at a much more expensive price to my classmates. And we made a bunch of money compared to what we spent on it in the first place. But as a grown adult, I realized how bad the gum is. Those commercials with the people saying they wish they were paid, but that gum were so dumb when I reminisce upon it. What schmucks? Haha. I only had these thoughts about this gum because I was literally 17 hours in on a 26-hour drive, and I was starting to get pretty lonely. Have you ever had that moment when you're chewing a piece of gum that once it goes bad, it literally makes you fucking pissed? Anyway, sorry for the dumbass story. Just thought you might relate. Hope all is well out there in Cali for you, man. Gus the Bus. I'm actually surprised at myself, Gus, that I opted to read this one on the podcast. It's a pretty long story. Pretty, what's the word to use for that story? Random for sure. It's a very micro story, how you feel about gum. I think the reason that I related to it is because you said you're 17 hours in on a drive, and I can relate to having strange thoughts like that after being on the road for so long, and for you to get pissed about gum losing its flavor is really one of those things where it's like you're really getting pissed because you've been on the road for 17 hours. It's less about the gum and more about the road trip. And as far as your question about gum, I don't chew gum. I never was big into chewing gum, and if it loses its flavor, Gus, you gotta spit it out, dog. You're in a car. Can't you just spit it out the window? And I don't advocate litter. I don't advocate it. Gum is crazy too, man. It's so weird. I was pretty old when I found out that, like, when you walk down the street in a city on a sidewalk, pretty much every little mark on the concrete that's like a little, what do you call it? Like a discoloration, all those little circles, pretty much every one of them is from where somebody spit gum. Like, gum leaves a lot of filth around. That said, spit out. You just spit the gum out, Gus. You know? It's nothing to be pissed about. I mean, if you consider the fact that, let's see, buy the gum for, I don't know, $2, 10 pieces in it, 20 cents a piece. You got 2 minutes. Paying 10 cents for each minute of joy. If it was that blissful, I think 10 cents a minute's worth it. Thank you for the email, Gus. All right. This one is from Darius the Various. Darius the Various. Yo, Wax, I've recently been listening to some old podcasts I never heard before, and I have a question. WTF happened to the call someone and fuck with them segment? Notice the 3 question marks, not 1 but 3. I guess that means that it's an important question worded with a strong tone. It would be awesome if you could bring that up again in a podcast. Second question. Well, I guess I'll just answer the first question. I don't know, man. I think that I just, to be honest with you, I just don't know that many people. And anybody that I could really call, I already did. I don't have a lot of friends. I mean, I have a lot of friends. It's so funny that I had a friend that fucking listened to a podcast where I said that I don't really keep in touch with people from my hometown, and he was like mad about it. And I think he was just fucking with me, but I do have a lot of friends, but I don't realistically have a lot of friends that I call and talk to all the time. And call someone and fuck with them would actually be more interesting if it was people that you might know, musicians and such. And any of those that I knew, I already called. I know like 3 musicians. I know way more than that, but like, what the fuck, man? long story short, I don't know enough people to make that segment interesting anymore. Second question, have you ever done/tried visual arts, drawings, paintings, lettering? I was curious about that. In school, I was in art class because you had to be. I did ceramics in high school. My mother still holds my ceramics works in high regard. You would know if you went to my house where I grew up. Go in the bathroom or in various rooms, and you might wonder to yourself, where'd you get that weird fucking vase? And that was probably made by me in high school in ceramics class. But no, I don't really do visual arts. The only thing that could be considered visual art that I do is like either music videos or awful promotional photoshops that I do for this podcast. That's art, I guess. Also, and if you don't mind, here's a third one. If you could consume only one type of drugs for the rest of your life, which one would it be? Thanks for taking the time to read this mail and answering my questions as well as making the podcast. I certainly enjoy them. That's a tough question, man. A really tough question. Some of the really hard drugs I would never do. It makes me think that, and then some of the drugs that I like the most, I kind of, maybe the wiser thing would be to stop doing them. So I think that if I had that choice, I would go with caffeine. I think that I love coffee so much, and it's harmless enough that if I had to give up every other drug, I'd keep that one. I think that's what it would be. Interestingly enough, if you've ever seen any AA meetings or NA meetings, anybody that has addictions to hard drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, when they give up, they tend to drink a lot of coffee. A lot of them smoke cigarettes too, but it's kind of silly because realistically, cigarettes are the fucking biggest killer out of any of them. But addicty people, addiction-oriented people, when they get rid of the big ones, they just substitute it for a small one. So I think that the best thing to do would be to just drink coffee, I don't think coffee can kill you. God damn it. How am I going to... Hold up. Can I do it? My mouse... Since I've been doing this podcast, my mouse is now out of battery. So I'm going to have to navigate using just a keyboard. I remember when I had an office job back in the day. There was a really fucking smart guy, and it sucked because I was like an administrative assistant. I was like the lowlife of the office, and this guy got hired, and he was like an engineer. He was high up in the office, and not only was he a fucking know-it-all, but he was like a know-it-all that deserved to be a know-it-all. He fucking knew everything. I remember getting frustrated because my mouse wasn't working today, and he goes, "Actually, Windows is completely navigable by keyboard." And he uses navigable. That's another interesting word. Sweater knitter, navigable. Sweater knitter, navigable. Write that down. Yeah. So that was my story to end this week's podcast. Be safe out there.